Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be looking at a game from Liquid Impact. Impact is one of the most consistent top laners in NA and is known for his excellent fundamentals. In this game, Impact is going to be playing Vladimir against Gangplank. We've been seeing a lot of Gangplank, and frankly that's because Gangplank is busted right now. Anyway, thinking about these two champions, this matchup isn't too different from when we watched Khan play Camille against Gangplank. Vlad has a good matchup into Gangplank here because he can sustain through Gangplank's poke. Vlad also has more wave clear than Gangplank, who will really struggle against the early levels to match Vlad's E on the wave. Because of the wave clear advantage, it will be easy for Impact to control and manipulate the wave in his favor. With that all in mind, there are some key things Impact can do to win this lane. First, he always wants to go Q for Q with Gangplank. This is simple, but the key thing to note is to not use Q on minions. Next, since he has more sustain, he wants to be looking for constant small trades over going for large trades. Then, once he has a health advantage, he wants to start contesting Gangplank for his CS. With that all said, let's hop in. Here Impact goes for harass on Gangplank, who's leashing for Sejuani. As he kites back to the lane while fighting, doesn't this look like a pretty bad trade? So why did Impact end up taking such an aggressive trade that he ended up losing health-wise? Well, the answer has to do with resource usage. Gangplank is annoying and has the capability to win trades, but these things only last as long as he has mana. Vladimir, on the other hand, is annoying as long as he has health, because that's his only resource. With that in mind, and in conjunction with his sustain advantage, this is actually a great start to the lane for Impact. As we watch these two lane against each other, two things are happening. Impact is letting him get outpushed, and he's also focused on trading Q for Q with the enemy Gangplank. This is great because he keeps whittling down Gangplank's resources with these consistent, small trades. In fact, now they're even health, and both have been chugging potions. This isn't unbelievable, of course, since most people understand that Vlad has good in-lane sustain. The important part comes down to how Impact has already leveraged his strength into an advantage against this Gangplank. As Gangplank hits level 2, Impact is playing calm and collected. He forfeits control and lets Gangplank push up to him. This isn't because he's gotten caught off guard, but rather because he expects this to happen. This has all been going according to Impact's plan. He's been trading with Gangplank a lot, and what's going to happen after Gangplank runs out of resources? The minion wave is going to still be right here, and he's going to struggle to deal with it. If he keeps sustaining here, then freezes right in front of the turret, Impact will be able to further chip away at Gangplank's health bar with minimal threat of a gank. Here's the freeze we just talked about. Let's think for a bit about what Gangplank can even do about this. First off, he went for a W second instead of barrels because he wanted to get some health back. This is an idea, but it's ultimately going to be a problem because going W second means that he's not only going to be out-sustained anyways, oranges also have used nearly all of his remaining mana, meaning that he can't poke back or farm from range, and in addition, without barrels, he can't push past Vladimir and is going to be in a really rough spot. As we can see, Impact is now up in health and Gangplank is starting to really struggle. At this point, we'd say that Vlad is heavily winning the lane. Forcing out the orange here means that Gangplank is going to be at extremely low mana levels and will have to either give up CS, use his Q to secure them, or walk up and take a lot of harassment damage, or use his teleport to reset. In any of these four situations, Gangplank is coming out behind. He chooses to move up into auto range to secure this melee minion and then quickly gets punished by Impact. At this point, he has to back, but it's still going to be hard for him to punish Impact when he teleports back. As Impact pushes the wave into Gangplank's turret, this is the most dangerous part of the lane so far for him. He has to be really careful about overextending and punishing for a gank. In fact, I'm sure this has happened for many of us, where you play the start of the lane amazingly well, but then get punished by a well-timed gank as you're pushing in for a reset. In situations like this, you're at a health disadvantage with gold in the bank and you're pushed up to the opponent's side of the lane. This makes you a prime target to be collapsed on by an enemy jungler, so make sure you're being careful. As we can see in the river, Sejuani has a great gank timing to punish Impact for pushing in. Impact will definitely have to flash to get out of this. In a surprising turn of events, Sejuani ends up overextending and doesn't proc the stun shatter either. She then dies to the turret and Impact's ignite. If Impact hadn't been far ahead before, he sure is now. This kill was a cherry on top of an excellent laning phase, and we're going to skip forward to when he gets back into the lane. Impact's team is winning across the map at this point, which is great, but we want to make sure that he does his part to shut out Gangplank. Here he's going to build a big minion wave which will give him the potential to do a few things. The simplest thing he can do is harass Gangplank under the turret as he tries to kill these minions. He can also call Jarvan to come dive to Gangplank with the big wave. His last option, if he wants to be really safe, is to get vision in the river and enemy jungle. This will allow him to play aggressively while giving his team info on the enemy Sejuani's positioning. As he's slowly pushing in this wave, think about what you would try to do in a situation like this. Also, note that he's last hitting the wave instead of just pushing it quickly. This is because Impact wants to gather this third wave to maximize the effectiveness of whatever decision he decides to make. Having this huge mini wave gives him a lot of 1v2 potential now that he's also level 6, just in case Sejuani wants to come up top and die again. It would also give him an easy dive onto Gangplank if Jarvan were here, though unfortunately he's on the bottom side of the map. If Impact did have teammates nearby, whether it was his mid laner or his jungler, Gangplank would have been shut out for the game for at least 10 minutes if they denied these 3 waves. This is a pretty cool move from Impact, because he sees that the wave is going into turret range, so he dances in front of it to make the minions take a less effective path, pretty much blocking them for just long enough to stall the wave in front of the enemy turret just out of range. This matters because now this incoming third minion wave will meet up and crash into the turret simultaneously with the other waves. As the wave crashes, Impact goes all in with a great setup. It does get denied by stopwatch, however, and if Gangplank hadn't had stopwatch, he certainly would have died for this. So, at the patch that you're probably watching this video on, go for it. The bottom line, however, is that he didn't die, so what happens now? Well, even though he defended against Impact's all-in, Gangplank has been losing farm this entire time. Impact now leaves these casters alive so that the wave slow pushes back to him. After all, now that he's used his ultimate and his ignite, he doesn't have kill pressure on Gangplank, so he might as well let the wave come back to him. This will allow him to build up another big minion wave while he waits for his cooldowns, and, as we mentioned earlier, it's going to be hard for Gangplank to push through him as a low-level melee. There's a lot to learn from Impact's calm play in this game. He's going with the flow of how minions act, and doing small things to impact the wave and make it act how he wants. Overall, he's following bounces and wave resets. When the wave pushes towards him, he plays more defensively, but when it has it pushing for him, he plays more aggressively. Gangplank ends up teleporting mid before Impact could make another big wave, but as he clears the wave behind the turret, he's up over 30 CS. This lane started out with Impact immediately trading with Gangplank off of good vision in the enemy jungle. While the trade looked bad, Impact knew better as he immediately began leveraging his sustain, which is Vladimir's biggest asset in lane. As time went on, Impact took consistent trades with Gangplank with the goal of whittling down his resources. The kill on Sejuani under his turret was great, though it wasn't necessary for him to win this lane. What really set Impact apart in this lane was his strong usage of the ebb and flow of minion waves and aligning his play to match them. Because he did this and was on a champion with nearly infinite resources, he was able to out-sustain and beat Gangplank through a death by 1,000 cuts. When going into your own games, try to think critically about whether or not you can out-sustain your opponent, and what the conditions for out-sustaining them are. This could be as simple as spell vamping on Vladimir, but it could also look like proccing vitals on Fiora, blocking damage with the shield on Riven, or cycling through passives on Malphite. Aligning your play to these sustain conditions will win you more laning phases and keep you less vulnerable to ganks. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and leave a rating below if you liked the video. If not, tell us why. We love to hear feedback. See you next time.